Last time we played against Cloud9, it was a really close series. Jensen's having a really great season so far.
Smithy chanting by Jensen, who is now level 6. Double kill for LeBlanc.
As long as I can hold my own against him, I think my team can do better.
I think Echofox is legit like Frog just 1v9 every game.
Lemonation tries to put up Unbreakable, but will he be broken? It's the kill from Turtle. Moon goes down. The shots from Acadian as Frog and turns with the Voidling.
I really believe that we can do well, but we just have to like bounce back from the loss streak.
Acadian's looking about like a pincushion. A double kill for Piglet.
No matter how many players they have, if they're not good enough, then it's not going to work out. I don't think they're a threat at all.
Welcome to fans in the studio and at home for another full day of North American LCS. Nothing is set in stone as teams fight to make big moves in the waning weeks of the summer split. And here we have Flame and Immortals entering the studio moments ago in hopes of snagging that #1 spot alongside CLG and TSM. They'll face off against Cloud9 today, whose top laner Impact was catching up with old teammate Adrian. He had a great performance on Team Dignitas yesterday, and we'll hope to extend that sort of performance against Arrow and Xpecial today. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson. In the Game of Thrones, you win or you host the Analyst Desk with these two fools, Mark Zimmerman and Isaac Zale Cummings-Bentley. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Not today, Dash. Not today.
You know nothing, Zale.
I don't watch that show.
And you don't watch that show, so none of these references mean anything to you. Well, let's go ahead and pull up the standings to see what teams are fighting for coming into the day. Immortals and TSM each have a chance to tie CLG for first today, while Team Envy, Cloud9, and Dignitas all want to claim sole possession of 4th place by the end of the day. We'll see who can alter their fate with our matches today. First up on NALCS 1, Cloud9 and Immortals try to topple one another in the battle arena. Then Team Liquid have the tough task of facing a surging TSM. Over on NALCS 2, Team Dignitas look to cool off the P1 hype in the battle theater, and then Team Envy aim to end their week 2-0 versus Echofox later in the day. Now, coming into week 6, we thought we had clarity in how the teams stacked up, but after a couple of 2-0 upsets, lots of 2-0 games yesterday, nothing seems certain anymore.
No, and I think with CLG, they're still a little bit surprised to see them lose to Dignitas, a team that we were starting to write off a fair amount, considering that they had went from 5-1 to 5-5, lost 4 straight series, and then you're coming off a break week. You think CLG is going to come out looking fresh, and they honestly didn't look that good. He had a really bad day. Their bot lane got taken care of, and it was just not impressive at all.
Yeah, and it's a little bit surprising for me to see Omar God come in after a loss. They're down 0-1 in the series. They're still utilizing these subs, and I feel like for the most part, subs have not been working out for teams.
Now, on the flip side, Dignitas, as you mentioned, snapping that 4-match losing streak in the 2-0 victory yesterday. Of course, that's just a single, isolated series. How do we feel they've improved given that, down week of Rift Rivals?
I mean, you have to look at Adrian coming in. I know you're saying a lot of subs you don't think look good, and it sounds more like a replacement than a substitution based off what they're saying, where they scrimmed exclusively with that roster for the whole week. And based off that, at least, it looks pretty good. They did use Kalista Thresh a lot, which is right now one of the most dominant bot lanes, but the big thing is being able to execute that game plan. CLG might not have had the right priority in the draft, and they gave up a really strong bot lane 2 times in a row and got destroyed by that.
Now, another squad just outside the top 4 coming into the week was Team Envy. They 2-0'd Cloud9, moving to 6-5 themselves.
And I mean, this sounds like a big upset because it's Cloud9 versus Team Envy, but when you look in the standings, they're only 1 game behind. They are now tied. Envy has been playing better and better, and honestly, we keep kind of giving Cloud9 the benefit of the doubt because their team didn't change.
Well, they were second place in spring, right?
Exactly, and they almost won, right? But they have not been playing that well. We're in week 6. The top laners are both still struggling. And at this point, how good is C9? Like, do we still consider them like one of these top teams that's just going to bounce back? I mean, we're pretty late in the season.
Yeah, and even if you look at Envy, the people they lost to, they have, in a sense, more win conditions available to them where Lyra can go off, or Niski can have a good game, or Apollo can do well. And for C9, it feels like if Jensen does not carry this team to a victory, they basically lose.
I think without a doubt, they don't look as strong as they did in spring, and that they do have narrow win conditions. Of course, they still have a little bit of time to turn the tides and move themselves back up those standings. Now, the only top teams that performed to expectations coming into the week have been Immortals and TSM. TSM still riding hot off of Rift Rivals, looking very dominant. Immortals as well, bouncing back after struggling there back in week 5.
I mean, TSM, there's not too much to say. TSM is TSM. They just obliterate people for the most part. They have really clean macro. They did struggle a little bit versus P1, but then again, P1 has been looking better, so it's not surprising to see them put up a little bit of a fight, and at the end of the day, it was still a 2-0.
And I mean, it's impressive to see TSM's constant improvement throughout the split. I think that going into Rift Rivals, there was a lot of hype. They had won at one point 10 games in a row. They smashed at Rift Rivals. They come back. They beat P1, who looked the second best team there. So to me, TSM is looking like the best team clearly in the league right now, despite the standings.
How about the Immortals bounce back, though?
I mean, it's impressive to me just because there's like that small concern when you go 0-2 before an off week, and then you have a little bit of time where you're not as a team.
Fall off.
Yeah, are you going to completely lose momentum? And when you come out of the break week, you struggle again, and you can really demotivate yourselves. But it's nice to see them come out really strong in a 2-0, look very convincing while doing that, and that bodes well for them going into the later part of the season.
Both of those teams will have the opportunity to tie up with CLG for first place today if they're able to pick up their wins. But we want to put your precognitive powers to the test in our Twitter question of the day. So tell us what you think will be the next big surprise we can look forward to here in the North American LCS. Does your crystal ball see Team Liquid beating TSM today? Are your tea leaves certain Ray will 1v9 on Tarek top lane? Or consult your tarot cards and let us know what you're predicting to @LOL Esports with the hashtag NALCS. Jat, Kobe, and myself can read your genius on NALCS tonight. What's going on here? What do you see?
I see that you will not be able to watch the Game of Thrones premiere for some reason tonight.
That's awful.
It's ominous.
That
it doesn't
is
look good.
awful.
Your future looks terrible,
That
James.
means I'm going to have to live like in a social media blackout for as long as it takes until I'm going to lose my mind. I'm freaking out. Anyway, I predict that if I send it over to the casters, they'll get the games underway. Let's see if that happens.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Battle Arena. And hello, I am Rivington Bizen III, and the only caster I would compete against in a reboot of Double Dare is Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler.
I love that. Let's make it happen.
It's going to be so good. The gears are turning, and the stage is set now for our first series, Team Dignitas versus Phoenix1. And Team Dignitas can come into this with some swagger as they enter this match after taking down the #1 team. It's got to feel pretty good.
It definitely does, and especially for Adrian. That guy should have some swagger after his first performance with the team. The other guy that should feel more confident is Shrimp, because the team talked about releasing Chaser officially. Now, we haven't seen Chaser actually play some games for quite a while, and we pretty much had the idea that Shrimp was going to be the starter, but they've been just purely practicing with him, and he started to show the Nunu. And, you know, typically when you have St. Vicious as a jungler, you can, or as a coach, you can kind of base the jungler champions off of him. And I do expect to see more Cinderhawks and more tanks there from Shrimp.
Get ready to see some of those shared champion pools if you know what Saint plays. And despite all the Rift Rivals hype we did hear about, Adrian didn't mince words when he came into this facing his former bot lane partner today. So he's ready for this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, everybody always talked about how Arrow was, gave a lot of feedback to his supports.
Yes.
And Adrian was one of those. So you definitely know that Arrow and Adrian got a little something extra riding on this matchup. And the bottom lane for Phoenix1, as you can see in the stats, Arrow has actually not been doing very well this split. They've changed out supports very frequently.
A lot of things to facilitate Arrow, especially.
And definitely going to see if he can start to have his resurgence, because it has started to look better with Xpecial, but they definitely still have some way to go. The other thing is that Phoenix1, they were able to keep up with TSM pretty well as far as team fighting and mechanics, but the macro game just wasn't there. The quick split-second decision-making definitely has to come up a little bit.
Seem to get pulled apart when the map opens up. So with the teams about ready to go, let us jump into the roster rundown. On the blue side, it is Team Dignitas. That means it is going to be Ssumday in the top lane, Shrimp roaming around in the jungle, Keane in mid, Altec at bot for Dignitas now, with Adrian at support and Coach Cop for picks and bans.
And on the red side, it is Phoenix1. Up top is Zig in the jungle, MikeYeung, mid Ryu, bottom Arrow, support Xpecial, and Coach Fly on stage with them.
Well, P1 seeing that the late game may be a bit of the trouble area for them. Early game compositions, getting sure that Arrow has a safe lane, or maybe even scaling. I know those are two opposite things I said, but either way, Arrow has to be safe in this early game if they're really trying to focus him.
Yeah, there are a couple things right now with AD carry role. Kalista is super high priority. I personally like the Kog'Maw or Tristana into that pick, and that's kind of what the meta has been revolving around for bottom lanes, is this kind of pivotal Kalista pick, and then the other team is pretty much faced with pulling up a counter. We haven't seen Kalista move past first picks into the ban stages quite yet, and teams are still happy to play into her with a couple of those champions that I just listed, either the Kog'Maw, Tristana, or even Twitch. But we may actually see it get even further to where teams start banning her out.
LeBlanc Elise, expecting to see that. Zach, obviously. Coach is on your screen. Kind of slowly saying, if we see this, usually the first pick and ban phase is pretty simple for both teams.
We've pretty much settled into the power picks basically right now, and this is where we don't see very much variation in the early bans, unless you have somebody like Huhi or something that throws the Aurelion Soul in there. These target bans. We do have one target ban so far, which is just the Draven aimed at Arrow. He did pull it out at Rift Rivals, but other than that, these are all the standard ones that we have been seeing, so no surprises, no predictions even necessary, as literally
what do you got last, Kobe? What do you got last, Kobe?
Of the games have had these. Let's throw in the jungle ban, maybe? No. Oh, the Morgana. A little bit of flavor there. The Morgana has been an answer to the Thresh, so the point of this Morgana ban last year is that Phoenix1 can now actually first round Thresh for Xpecial. There it is. And as we said, we don't get many wild cards as far as the pick bans right now, so it is pretty predictable. And no surprise there with that lock-in as soon as you see the Black Shield off the table. The other thing is that the Kalista that we mentioned, first pick, and no surprise, there it is.
Locked it in. Altec's going to be hopping around in lane. And now Arrow doesn't have to worry about dodging hooks. He can be on the offensive end of those along with Xpecial. Looking for a top laner possibly. Just round out a pretty good early game comp as we would hope that P1 was going to grab.
Yeah, super strong laner here for Zig in the Renekton. Definitely want to take that. Anytime Dignitas get a lead on Ssumday, whether it's a tank or it's a carry in the top lane, they definitely have much more success. So Zig's setting himself up to be fairly self-sufficient with Renekton. Meanwhile, a hover over there. Ode to MikeYeung with the Nidalee hover from Shrimp. But the Blitzcrank has been a fairly common answer to the Thresh as well, answering hook for hook. And if you have Kalista as your AD carry, it makes Blitz even more scary because you can have a super long engage range, and it gives him some defense.
Also works well with Blitz because Fate's Call bounces whoever gets thrown to their auto attack range, so Blitz is close. You can
do the extendo pull where you throw out the pull and then you do Fate's Call as it's going out, and you can pull him an extra screen back. We saw that last year with
Double Lift and Afromoo.
Double Lift and Afromoo when they were both still on COG. Had the memories. Anyway, the Nunu, as we said before, from Shrimp, showed it yesterday, and it's going to go right back onto that one.
I love seeing it. You hate playing against it. Such a nuisance. Just in your hair all the time. Hopefully, MikeYeung can be a trickster around that. Locking in the Nidalee for himself. Good aggression. He can play some tricks.
So maybe we'll see Team Dignitas ban out the Tristana here and start to target the AD carry role, as that is the role that Phoenix1 have not answered quite yet. And meanwhile, Phoenix1 are targeting top laners as they're the ones with Renekton.
Arrow taking a few hits here in the second ban phase, and no help for Altec coming from that Shen. They also don't want to give Ssumday just an easy sit-back laning phase against this Renekton. They want to give Zig a chance to kill and a better lane.
Yeah, I actually think that that Shen ban was a little bit unnecessary, because if you look at the Dignitas lineup already, they need more damage. Blitzcrank and Nunu are two of the lowest damage champions in the entire game, and even though Nunu can give Blood Boil to your AD carry, it's definitely not going to make up that kind of deficit. So I think Dignitas are going to need some DPS. Definitely, some something like Cassiopeia or Orianna from the mid lane, and then also at least a Bruiser in the top lane. I don't think full tank top lane really would work out too well for them, because they'd be very early game oriented if they were funneled into that. Meanwhile, as I said, Tristana and Kog'Maw are two of the big answers to Kalista. And they are going to choose the Kog'Maw over Trist, which has been very popular.
Interesting. Pretty scary Kog'Maw to be playing against. This composition is going to be coming at you. Thought Phoenix1 might grab the Orianna first, but they leave that to the wayside for now. Dignitas chooses their last two.
And I actually really like Kog'Maw versus the front line of Nunu. Now, Blitzcrank does make it a bit more scary because you have to worry about the pulls and you don't have your own dash. But the percentage health, you know, Kog'Maw can definitely shred that front line and shred those tanks pretty decently. As I said, wanted more DPS for Dignitas, and there they go. They lock in Bruiser top and Syndra mid for the extra.
A lot of DPS. Both with potential to solo out a champion. Maybe not so much that Kled versus Renekton, but it's going to be one heck of a volatile matchup to start things off anyways. What will they throw into the mid lane? They need some shields? Possibly. And it's only going to be a self-shield. It's going to be Galio going in the hands of Ryu now for this composition. A mix and match, but overall, pretty fighty here from P1. They could start a lot of skirmishes.
Yeah, and the Galio is pretty interesting because, you know, Kled for Team Dignitas can guarantee those engages and charge right in. The Galio is a very good counter, though, as that's definitely good for counter engages. And once Kled is already in there, the giant zone and AoE from Galio can do a lot and go a long ways as far as protecting that Kog'Maw, which is definitely going to be big for Phoenix1. Xpecial is on duty with the Thresh, but it's always nice to have an extra peeler.
You're gonna have to see if they can like negate the pole delivery. It's like, sure, you want to pull one of us? Galio ult, perfect.
That would be quite the heroic entrance. Dive in, take the pole for him.
Everything's successful. So the coaches head off. Final words to their players. Hashtag Digwin, hashtag P1 win. We just saw Dignitas taking down quite handily CLG, the #1 team in the league here. And P1 coming out of Rift Rivals trying to use a bit of that momentum and put themselves back on top. They have their work cut out from here against Dignitas, but the chance is there. It's going to be a good game between these teams.
Definitely is. And again, we are looking at that bottom lane. Adrian playing against his former partner, Arrow. And he has Blitzcrank, so he's definitely going to be aiming for him very early on.
Says here, I'll give you a few tips, a few knuckle sandwiches. Let's see how they started off. We're on to the Rift. Let's see how we start. Talisman, Machete, back and forth.
Yeah, I'm actually super excited to see how MikeYeung plays this matchup because Nidalee can, especially if she gets a little bit of assistance in her early pull, actually go and counter jungle Nunu. People have this kind of misconception about Nunu that he's kind of just king of the jungle all the time.
He's the only one that can.
Yeah, he's guaranteed all of jungle camps, so he just walks up, oh, it's so easy to consume smite. Nunu actually can get chased down pretty easily early on in the match. Now, this is pre-nerf Nunu, so we're still on 713, so he still has quite a lot of stats, and he's very tanky early on, but Nidalee, especially once you get your double buffs and if you get a little bit of help on your clear, can go very offensive and even do some counter jungling, if not chase Nunu away from camps at least. Nunu definitely has to respect Nidalee's damage at least.
Placing down multiple wards. Making sure they actually do have an eye on MikeYeung. Shrimp is saying there could definitely be some counter jungling going on, and I want to make sure I have vision.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the big things as we were mentioning there. Trap start for MikeYeung means he's definitely going to go for the Raptors. If you start Spear, as we've seen from Korean solo queue, I like to copy. He'll usually start on a buff, but and go for like red to red invades or something. But trap start, you get all those resets for your pounce onto every little monster that has been marked, allowing for a very, very quick clear.
See if that initially helps Ryu. Not too much more experience. Just one. So now against Keane in the mid, Syndra versus that Galio. And we'll see how Ryu actually plays this one. If it's going to be fast by MikeYeung, if they look to blow the flash of Keane and then get a quick taunt on, it could be a very dead mid laner to start things off. We were saying P1 needs to get that good early game. They've been falling apart during the macro portion of the matches.
And I'm really curious, what went on with Shrimp there? He had vision of MikeYeung start and saw him move over from the Raptors towards the red buff side, but he still went over to try and counter jungle the red. So Shrimp wasting quite a lot of time there on the Nunu, runs all the way over to the red quadrant of Phoenix1 and finds nothing. Wasting that much time early on Nunu is definitely a very, very bad thing as far as the matchup specifically versus Nidalee. As we said, if she gets ahead, the extra damage, you have to respect it. Meanwhile, the bottom lane, might make up for it there. Adrian and Altec have gotten the early push, so they're afforded the early support rooms.
They got a few pings in. You can see Adrian looking for where the scuttle might be if taken. And they're trying to actually figure out where MikeYeung is. A lot of different pings going around. So they start back towards the bot side.
Missed his rend on that cannon. Feels pretty bad there.
Always does. One cannon to none. Xpecial got that one, so you gotta count it. You gotta count it. Good safety. Altec getting vision out towards the river. They've been able to stay safe for MikeYeung and going for a full jungle clear. Still going to the top side. They have Scarl to get off here. Might be able to get the flash from Ssumday as well. First blood looks to be coming in, and Ssumday will hold the summoners. First blood.
Every single time. Phoenix1 have run this Renekton Nidalee combo like 5 or 6 times here, and every time the stun sets up the spear for MikeYeung, and they get a very easy conversion on that first blood in the top side. This is definitely a big start. Renekton, already a lane bully, but now with that extra gold is going to be able to pressure Ssumday quite heavily.
Has a nice push on the lane as well. The teleport comes in, and we'll see it again as they get the kill.
Just stuns him up there, easy spear, and there's no way he's going to get away. So Ssumday does hold on to his flash because he knows he's completely dead, but it's a little bit disconcerting that Team Dignitas had such a difficult time, even keeping track of MikeYeung there with a Nunu jungle and with the, vision on the Raptors start of the Nidalee. But MikeYeung finds a way and he makes it look easy.
Always seems to fit it on the stage. Definitely no hesitation within his plays, or continuing to make plays here already from top lane down to mid lane. Already went back, got himself a tracker's knife to make sure he's got wards on the map, but also trying to put pressure back into mid.
2-for-1 summoner spell exchange there. Ryu going flash for the flash cleanse of Keane. So there could be a repeat, but the problem also with ganking the mid lane like that versus a champ like Syndra is you have to be a bit careful as the jungler as she approaches that level 6, because she should, as long as she's not super far behind, be getting that level 6 before the jungler, and you feel a bit squishy when going up to face that. Thunderlord plus Q and Syndra ultimate can usually do 90% of a jungler's health that early on in the game, so maybe we won't even see a repeat visit. Kind of depends on the state of the wave control.
Looking at all lanes, Zig not really having control of that. These two equal each other out, but he does have the teleport advantage now from what we saw happen, and that may extend to the other lanes as level 6 are starting to come up.
Stat here popping up for Ssumday. It kind of speaks to the story that we were talking about a bit earlier, where Ssumday has been, such a big asset for this team, but sometimes, especially early on in the game, he likes to pressure his lane so much and push up so much without, complete vision, which you're not going to get early on in the game. But a lot of teams have tried to focus him, and a lot of teams spend an abnormal amount of extra jungle pressure up in the top side when they're facing Team Dignitas, because Ssumday is a star and because he does, attract that extra attention. And a lot of that has actually been converted and very successful ganks on Ssumday.
A lot of the time, when he does get that advantage in lane, you think about the Gragas teleports he would make earlier in the season and the plays he would come up with. So every right to want to keep that guy down. Make sure he can't be coming up calling the cavalry with Kled this time. Down the bot lane, a little bit of a push from P1 here. Xpecial and Arrow. Swing this into the turret as they get a bit of a mismatch back from Altec and Adrian. Oh, cat and mouse game beginning now. Cat and Yeti.
All right, looks like they're gonna try and close the defense here. Both solo lanes do edge over for Team Dignitas, but Ryu's coming as well.
Come on, grab. The crowd's ready.
Oh, and he still gets it. MikeYeung.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Even with the Syndra, like they don't throw the blue buff far enough away. With Syndra, you usually, after you pick it up, throw it deeper into your own territory where the enemy jungler out of their range of smite. But Keane throws it right back in the middle there. I guess he was more worried about the leash range, but yeah, you should be able to finish off if jungler has smite quick enough. He really wanted it for himself, though. In the end, they don't even get it on the team, but Shrimp back out there for a quick exchange, and he's not going to let this one go unanswered.
I wondered how quick he would get out of there. Consume smite, make sure it happens. Way too late. Ryu actually could be walking down to a bit of a danger himself. Almost decides to take that fight. Rotation coming up from Adrian as P1 still decides to mingle about here in the mid lane. Things fizzle out, everybody back to their positions. We still only have that first blood towards the top side. However, MikeYeung is trying to make it a tough time here for Shrimp, so he's not just grabbing camps and has full control over these dragons.
Yeah, a little bit of extra vision is kind of deep here into the Phoenix1 jungle as well. They've been able to leave that ward in the blue quadrant where MikeYeung did pass over, so now they're having an easier time tracking him, but we'll see, because all the CS pretty much across the board pretty close. Yeah. Just the Kalista power that we're quite used to now in lane, and the Dignitas bottom lane pushing in against Phoenix1 once again.
Slow. Some days like this is perfect. Right here is great. I can't get ganked. Nobody's gonna come behind me. He already has that ward. This means Zig's gonna have a nice wave here if he doesn't start pruning it and clean up. Looks like he will do just that. Teleports are gonna be matched here soon, so Zig wants to make sure they're not missing too much if they do have to teleport out of lane.
And actually something interesting too to talk about is these early game recall timings where the Dignitas bottom lane were just forced to go for that recall, and MikeYeung is starting up the Drake because his bottom lane is here and they have the extra pressure. So mid lane teleport is all that it's going to take this dragon. This is something that we always talk about setting up for, right? You can definitely force recall timings like that where your bottom lane is still here in position, allowing MikeYeung to take this dragon. And usually people will have questions about, oh, Nunu should have 100% dragon control, right? But it depends so much more on the side lanes and the lane pressure there. And that back timing is what's going to earn Phoenix1 their Cloud Drake.
Still need map control to make those things work. Looks like Dignitas will now use the timings we were just talking about. As P1 took Dragon, they had to back. Is it enough time to get this turret, though? Shrimp very low. No rotation. MikeYeung looks like he'll put himself in favor of a possible play, but he's just hovering the bottom side here.
Yeah, that looked like a little bit of frustration from Team Dignitas, where they were very unhappy that the Drake was taken right during their recall and wanted to force something to get something back, maybe a first turret gold or something, but in the end, they get pressured. Shrimp has to blow his flash. He also has to recall and get chunked out, which means MikeYeung has complete control, knowing that the enemy jungler is back in base currently.
MikeYeung clear that ward.
He doesn't have time for that. You got to get back out to farming. That's mid laner's problem, man. You got to clean up your own trash.
Looks like, yeah, he's got Raptors. He's like, I got Raptors up. Don't worry about it.
Sometimes you can use that as a bait, though. Ryu actually wants to defend all their wards in the river here. MikeYeung does show on the minions in mid lane, but they do it. Phoenix1 defending their control wards here in the bottom river.
Slight push. Keane may have a chance to leave lane for a second. Galio, no slouch, though, getting that wave right back to reset in the mid lane. So Keane stays. Zig and Ssumday. Punch for punch here in the top side. CS is actually very equal between these two.
Yeah. This is the Ninja Tabby Doran Shield meta, where both of them buying a bunch of defenses first. We are going to have a little bit of a visit here from Shrimp. He could go for... Whoa! They don't get the combo, but...
I was going to say, they got their primary target. He says, how about a little taste of your own medicine? They get back Xpecial. Double summoners for a flash for Xpecial.
Yeah, a little bit of mistiming there. So what Xpecial is going for is throwing out the lantern and having MikeYeung take the lantern, and then he flashes, but the flash extended. Oh! Got the hook onto Arrow.
Oh, that's not good. Puppy's got to run. I guess he gets himself to safety there. Tail between his legs for a second. Teleports for top laners also recently used.
Yeah, both of them were canceled there, trying to enter that bottom skirmish, and they both saw that there was going to be inaction. MikeYeung going pretty deep, though.
Oh, the Ryu delivery system. And Adrian and Altec feel things are getting a little too crazy, so they back off. Turret control now to the bot side, but mid here gets Rift Herald from Shrimp, just taken.
Yep, that's going to be a headbutt. Let's see if the bottom actually is going to be even close to matching this, because they didn't send... no, Ryu and Xpecial both pulled off the turret, so it's actually not even going to be close. Maybe if they had both stayed on it, they could try and match Rift Herald, but the Rift Herald insisted push there earns first turret bonus for Team Dignitas.
Sly little moves around the map. Not as much health taken off from there, based on Rift Herald's health herself. And we are now just about 14 minutes in. Gold is all evened up with the taking of those turrets globally. And we'll see who has the better rotations now. This is where we kept kind of saying P1 fell behind versus TSM while holding a good early game. We'll have to see if they can continue this kill lead, at least on Dignitas.
Yeah, mid lane turret going down so early too can be very problematic versus a Nunu team, because the deep vision comes through very quick, you know, always rushing into early, you know, health and vision items, and loves to get through that counter jungling. MikeYeung, though, on the Nidalee, as we said, he had such a good start that the clear is very quick, and he's able to clean up all the minions on the side of the jungle that is warded right now.
Great deep wards here from Dignitas. Possible plays to come within the next few minutes. That pink ward will stay just near the red brush here. And Dig slowly moving up their wards. Remember, this vision was all P1s recently. That one in the pixel brush was Ryu's teleport to get them the first dragon. So Dignitas feeling comfortable about being able to guard a little bit more. Possibly start the fights too, just out of range of Arrow. And a nice scatter of the weak here to stop Ryu from the engage.
Arrow wants to punish him during the cooldown of Hook. It's a couple of shots there on Adrian. Love taps from former bottom lane partners. Let's see, the 50 seconds here left on this Ocean Drake is actually going to sync up with the top lane teleport timers. So we may see another, you know, at least attempt to utilize those. And it's going to be very important who's going to be able to land the actual hook for the engage.
What a funny interaction.
Nice little exchange. Ryu actually taking the damage through his shield as well.
Maybe this time? Not this time. Ooh.
Ssumday.
Yeah, looking for an engage, but he finds himself in a bad spot. Slice and dice to get the exit. Ssumday now from the top side. Zig was looking to get away from that the whole time. And it looks like they will be able to here, but now map pressure over to Dignitas.
Yeah, and the flash of Zig is not up anymore for this dragon fight that we just set up. That might be enough for you know, Team Dignitas to get also the teleport out. They're trying to bait right now.
Oh, they have one ward under him as well. Taken down is Xpecial. Can't even throw the box out. Zig teleports behind. Can he be the change of the fight? Doesn't have the home guards to come in on this one. Only 15 minutes in. A big hit going on to Adrian. The health bars are going down, though. Arrow follows a Cathian surprise. He can't find any damage with the passive. MikeYeung gets dropped by Ssumday as now they look for Ryu, the tankiest one. And they have done the fight methodically. Being able to find the tankiest one last. Dignitas looking pretty good.
Oh, they're going to be able to fish him off, too. Ssumday flashes over.
At some
able
point.
to get in front of Ryu and finds the last kill there. This is going to be the Drake as the prize for Team Dignitas. Meanwhile, Zig is trying to head up to the top side just to clean up the rest of the minions. Can't even stick around and do damage to the mid turret. Huge setup, though. Remember, this was all facilitated after Zig tried to go mid, and then he was forced back. So they were forced into this situation where they don't have vision control on the Drake. So that sets up for the Blitzcrank pull, and they take down Xpecial before he gets any spells off. Unable to get off his ultimate or play or anything. And remember that Arrow did not have his flash from that previous engagement that they had down there. So Arrow was actually pretty easily picked off by the Kalista ultimate there, getting Adrian right onto the inside. And after that, there's, you know, not much DPS left for Phoenix1, and they start to crumble in the team fight.
Just realizing how much chaos this Kalista Blitzcrank actually causes in the fight again. You get thrown in, you're getting knocked up, but you have to realize for those moments you're actually silenced. And in a team fight that fast, you expect those cooldowns to be off and already cooling down. But then you look and your Q is still up, and it throws off your whole rotation. Those small things can really give Dignitas an advantage in these fights. You don't really deal with silence all that often.
Yep, a lot of CC, and silence definitely an underestimated CC, because it's actually quite rare in the game now. They actually took it off quite a few champions and have not introduced a lot of new silences, so definitely one of the more rare ones we see, but very effective, as we saw in the last team fight. Nice layering. Teleport behind for a bit of a flank from Ssumday. Interesting if they'll actually catch him at the turret.
The return on investment is that ward has been there for a very long time. Fate's Call says we can draw out a few abilities, get them in the spot we want, and then throw him right back in. The kill going on to MikeYeung first. Xpecial in the eyes of Ssumday. A double kill actually coming in for Keane, though. It's going to be Ryu back to the turret to help with Ssumday on the dive as Zig is trying to fight a 2v1 that goes over to Altec. P1 is getting scattered and Dignitas is finding their mark.
And this is a completely new team Dignitas. After yesterday taking down CLG, absolutely destroying teamfight after teamfight here versus Phoenix1, and now they're going to continue on with the objectives after the teamfight. Turret goes down, a red buff invade here for Shrimp, and they should be able to complete it easily.
It's the mind games. They kind of throw Adrian in there, make him look like the weak link. Oh, he's hurt, but we actually have control of the entire play.
The old bait and switch.
Old bait and switch. It'll be really cool to see again how they did that with Fate's Call. Just a quick 1-2, able to grab the team. You see Dignitas rotating up, getting ready for it.
Yeah, Altec and Adrian, the new bottom lane basically for Team Dignitas has just made the team look so much better. They're the ones to start this off. As you said, bait and switch here with Adrian. Altec goes him right back in. And they have a really good flank. Shrimp with that zoning ultimate from Nunu cuts the Phoenix1 squad in half, and Keane just destroys their DPS under the turret. Ssumday's able to back out from their turret dive as well during the extra time they get before Galio comes back in, and even though Arrow lives in that one, they're completely separated, and Team Dignitas get a bunch of kills as well as the turret for a big surge in gold.
Now 3 vision wards live on the top side of that map. It looks like the rest of the team may do so as well to cover a bit, not the rest of the team, but cover enough of Altec's behind while he farms this one out. They move through, Keane gets blue, Dragon's gonna be coming up. Actually, Ocean Drake is next, Baron is gonna be coming up.
Yep, Baron has arrived. He is here, and he is going to draw some extra wards. Those are his favorite things, get to litter them all around. Especially in a game like this where there are hooks on both sides. Pick potential definitely real, but Phoenix1 would have to be more calculated about the one they go about. Very quick control here from Dignitas. As we said, every single time there's a Nunu Kalista, neutral objectives are basically guaranteed if you get it low enough. And it looks like they're going to be able to get this one. MikeYeung going to go for the Miracle Steal, doesn't get in.
Not going to happen. Very hard to do against a Nunu. Dark Passage to the light, Ryu's safe. And now they're going to have to deal with these Baroned up minions. Not the greatest wave clearing composition here to come from P1.
Yeah, if Nunu and Kalista combine their Consume, Smite, Rend correctly, even at 20 minutes, you can execute the Baron from 3,000 HP. Ssumday does get stunned up here.
Zig coming in with Dominus from the backside. He walks it in from that bot side area. Fate's Call saves Adrian. They try to get the Winds of War to the back line, but Ryu cannot pick up the kills. Both get away with a sliver of health.
Wow, Phoenix1, pretty good defense there, and they stall out the push from Team Dignitas. Every moment is very important for Phoenix1 to buy at this point. They want to delay the Baron buff usage of Team Dignitas, so forcing them back to base here and breaking that siege is definitely a very good step in the right direction for Phoenix1.
Be very nice to get this next Ocean Drake off Dignitas too. The way they're controlling this map, they can just sustain and keep these pushes up.
Yep. Baron empowered recalls, get them right back onto the field so quickly. Right back at it.
You got to be careful of what you fight for though with your map this open. P1 has so many things on their plate, and now mid goes down. Something else they have to worry about. Altec is in the bot lane already pushing, and it's a quick rotation over from Dignitas for the work they've done. They might just get 2 here.
All right, Altec actually going under the turret here. He has so much life steal, it doesn't even matter.
Gotta feel good. Usually you only see that with the BF sword late game when they have a shield. I'm sorry, a Bloodthirster late game. They move up. And Looks like they'll put maybe the final touches on this inhibitor turret on the bot side. Zig says he doesn't want that to happen, but he doesn't have much of a say after diving in. A 10,000 gold lead here in favor of Dignitas as they continue the pressure.
Yeah, Adrian just walks up, lands the hook on the front line, immediately execute him. Team Dignitas running straight through the base here. This is a very, very quick, move towards the inhibitor turret. I don't think they're going to leave until they're done here. 22 seconds means this is probably an inhibitor take and maybe extra kills on top of it.
Backs very against the wall. When the minion lane, the waves aren't even pushing another lanes, and you can't fight, it becomes tough. Ryu very, very low, finally going down. It takes quite a bit to get him, but Dignitas have all the time in the world to focus. 23 minutes in, Shrimp's gonna start tanking. They do have a few minions behind. It's a 3 spawn here from P1. This is exactly where things can go bad, and Dignitas is trying to make it happen. Everything right. 10-3, 23 minutes in. There's another kill, 11-3. Looking for the 12-3 as they take down Xpecial. MikeYeung's trying to say walk this way, but they're not even looking at his direction. And in under 24 minutes, 13-4, Dignitas are going to take down P1 for game 1.
Team Dignitas here, off of so many big pulls from Adrian and the Kalista Blitzcrank combo. Absolutely doing wonders for that squad. Ryu in the mid lane, 4-0-7 on the Syndra as well. That mid game was absolutely dominating from Team Dignitas. They just ran over Phoenix1.
These are some of the most interesting games because even as a play-by-play, and even you said, wait, are they going to end it? Because it's like, oh, these kills are great. They have such an advantage in this game. They're going to win at some point. Wait, that just got pushed up 10 minutes. That's crazy.
It's because so much of the lead was just in the mid game.
Yeah.
It all kind of ballooned off of that mid lane play. This is almost a 20-minute Baron, and then that 20-minute Baron, they end the game with. Like, the fastest possible way you can actually end the game with a Baron, because you can't even take it any quicker than that, and Team Dignitas make it look easy.
It was a great job as well by P1. They said, you know what, we don't have the wave clear to take this. Zig, you have to do something. They tried to stop that first engage in mid, but it was already Altec on the other side of the map. Dignitas had too many things in motion. We'll start going through some replays where Dignitas actually started to surge. 15.5 minutes in. This 3-for-1 in mid, and it completely caught P1 by surprise. Just the bushwhack.
Yeah, and remember, before this replay started, before this play started, it was the damage they dealt to Zig when he was on the Renekton coming through mid lane. So he had to go recall, and Team Dignitas had complete vision control around that dragon. That vision control is what allows Adrian to go for that fairly simple pull for him as they're just sitting on the control ward. He walks up, yoinks him in, and that was, as you said, the beginning of kind of the snowball here as vision control bloomed into a bunch of kills for them. They got the Drake after that, and there is more.
There absolutely is more. 19 minutes in, it's just 4 more minutes later. This was a short game, Kobe. The secured lead by the bait and switch.
Yep, this was their flank on the top side. The duo here.
Oh, we got Adrian.
It was like, oh yeah, 2 of them walking up. And even though Phoenix1 with the teleport are eventually able to get all the members there, look at how Dignitas split up Phoenix1. They have all the DPS there running for their tails. The front line's left here on the back, and they absolutely made it look like there was, no counterplay here from Phoenix1.
And in the early game, too, it was a little bit of
15 minutes into the game, they started off. Up until that point, it's like, okay, go pretty even. And then teamfight victory plus a bunch of objectives. Then another teamfight victory plus another bunch of objectives and a Baron buff. Boom, it's over.
The one quick hit as well that changed things over was a very, not fast take, but that hit on Rift Herald when they were going to trade bot for mid. Like you said, having a Nunu open up mid gives Nunu more of the map. That's exactly what they were able to do. Even in the early game, we were like, Shrimp, what is this pathing? They saw exactly where MikeYeung was, but what we've seen in the past, pressure Dignitas into doing things they don't like, they just stayed calm. They actually played that a lot better, and they didn't try to just dive under every turret they could find, get some kills. They got the kills the way they needed to, 13-4, and we wondered if the momentum would carry on, if they would take that swagger from beating CLG into today, and it looks pretty good. But can they do it again? We are going to head for a break right now, but we'll see when we return if P1 can bounce back in Game 2. Stay with us. Stay with us. You're watching the North American LCS. backs very against the wall. When the minion lane, the waves aren't even pushing another lanes, and you can't fight, it becomes tough. Ryu very, very low, finally going down.